Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us this evening. I'm Christine Witowich, and I'm pleased to welcome you on behalf of the IFH board. Я Христя Вітович, мені припала велика честь привітати вас в імені дирекції пансіонів. Our webinar is expected to run for an hour this evening and will include a question and answer session. If you'd like to send a question in at any time, please do so by using the button on the bottom of your screen. A recording will be made available and emailed to everyone on this call, and feel free to share it. This evening's presentation is part of an IFH webinar series, bringing relevant and timely information to our IFH community. And today's topic, ways to protect older adults from scams and frauds, is particularly relevant as there's a rise in this type of activity. We are seeing news reports from many news outlets, including the CBC just this week, on ways to help seniors protect themselves. And we decided to create an opportunity for our own community to hear from an expert. Getting informed is an important way to protect oneself. Knowledge is power and information is liberating. That's a quote you may have heard from Kofi Annan, and it captures the objective of our knowledge sharing this evening. And sharing knowledge with us will be Police Constable Mark McCabe. It's my pleasure and an honor to introduce Mark this evening. He's a native of Dublin, Ireland, and has been a police officer in Toronto for 18 years. His career has included serving in the Community Relations and Crime Prevention Unit. He started, when he was in the Crime Prevention Unit, he started a number of crime prevention initiatives, including Coffee with a Cop. It's a program where community members chat with police officers over coffee and discuss issues and learn about each other. This program was so successful that Mark has started it right across the city and in other Canadian police services. In March 2020, Mark was assigned to the role he's in today, which is Vulnerable Persons Coordinator at the Community Partnership and Engagement Unit of Toronto Police. Mark has received numerous letters of recognition for his work in assisting victims of crime, developing crime prevention strategies, and building relationships in the community. Mark, we are so pleased to have you with us this evening. Welcome.
Hi, good evening. Thanks very much for having me this evening. It's a pleasure to be here. So I look forward to telling you a little bit more about the frauds and scams that are affecting the city and so on. But yeah, I'm the Vulnerable Person Coordinators from the Community Partnership Unit, as Christine mentioned. So that unit is made up of various liaison officers. So we have liaison officers from a variety of backgrounds in that unit. It's also made up with our mobile crisis intervention team, and that would consist, to give you an idea, that consists of a nurse, mental health trained nurse, and a police officer, and they would respond to calls for people that are in crisis. So as opposed to sending two police officers, there's one that is highly trained in mental health as a nurse, and also the police officer as well, if needed, attends. So that is also coordinated at our unit, as well as a lot of our neighborhood programs as well. So we're citywide. We're unlike a police division. We don't respond to the 911 calls, but we are there for support for situations like this, events like this, or presentations right the way throughout the city, the variety of communities. So that's why I'm here. My particular role, I'm liaison for our Seniors Community Consultative Committee, and I'm also liaison for our Disabilities Community Consultative Committee. And those committees are made up of senior officers. So that would be basically a superintendent who's in charge of a station, along with some community members. So in the seniors committee, we're very fortunate to have one of the top geriatric psychiatrists in Canada as a member. We have a top geriatric doctor from University Health Network, as well as one of the top elder abuse lawyers in Canada too. So they're part of our committee. So police don't always have the answers when it comes to certain situations, but we're very fortunate we can pick up the phone and get answers from these experts as well. So that's my involvement in the committee and my involvement with the seniors or older adults. So I do have a PowerPoint presentation, so I'm going to try and share my screen. And hopefully we can get that working. So just give me 1 second. Okay, so hopefully you can all see that. Tonight we're going to talk about frauds and scams. So to give you an idea how big frauds are, and this is not, these numbers are not meant to be put out there to scare anyone in particular. It's just to give you an idea, because often we get questions is, oh, we hear about frauds and scams all the time, and you know it's in the news, and police are always talking about it, and so on. But to give you some idea of the numbers, as of June this year, there was a total number of reports made over 32,000. Uh, we have the victims of fraud, roughly about 21,000. And so far, year to date, $283.5 million has been reported lost through these frauds and scams. The concerning part about this is we reckon 5 to 10% of these are reported. That's generally the maximum. So only about 5 to 10% of victims actually come forward and make a report. So if that's the case, we're basically adding a lot of zeros onto the end of these numbers. So the number is incredible that's lost every single year. Later on, we'll look at a few reasons as to why people don't report it. To give you an idea here of the type of frauds that people fall victim to, the top one last year was the investment scam. Over $308 million on that one. And the one underneath that was the romance scam. The previous years, they were switched around. It was romance scam was number one and investment scam was number two. And then it trickles down from there. So it's basically a lot of the scams are the same idea, but the motive will vary slightly, or the way they'll do it will vary slightly. But generally, these are the types of scams and frauds that we're coming across on a regular basis. So some of the ones that are most common, the grandparent scam, which we'll look at. Social media scams are very big. Canada Revenue Agency, romance scams, and also computer virus scams. So this is one years ago. Some of you might be familiar with it, but this is one that was around quite a few years ago. It died off then for a while because police were in the media as much as they could, getting the word out about how this works and how to protect yourself. And then we found this one dropped off. We didn't hear too much about it, but it's back again. It's been back for quite a while as well. So basically, typically someone calls, pretends they're your grandchild, and then says they're in some kind of trouble and they need you to send money. So we should have a video. Hopefully the video will work and you can hear it okay. I'm going to play that and let's see if this should work.
Grandma, I'm in trouble and I need your help.
Sarah, is that you?
Yes, Grandma, it's me, Sarah. I'm in a lot of trouble. I crashed my car and I don't have any insurance.
Oh,
I'm at the auto body shop with the guy I hit and the mechanic. Please don't tell Mom and Dad. The guy I hit's insisting that I pay for the damages to his car right now or he's going to call the police. Oh my God. I need $2,700 to pay for the mechanic right now or they're going to have me arrested. My God, I'm in so much trouble. Can you please help me, Grandma? Please?
Oh my goodness. Oh, sweetheart, what can I do?
He needs the money up front or he won't start the work. I'm in so much trouble. Can you please help me? Lend me the money? I'll pay you back as soon as I can. Please don't tell Mom and Dad.
Just tell me. I'll go to the bank and tell me where I should send the money.
The mechanic guy says you just have to go to a money transfer place and wire the money to him directly. I don't have all the details, but I can put him on the phone to talk to you.
Yes. Just tell me what to do.
Thanks so much, Grandma. I love you.
Okay. I need you to go to the nearest money transfer place and wire the money to my business account. Now, when you wire the money, they'll give you a reference number. I can start working on this guy's car. Because I gotta tell you, he's not happy with his granddaughter right now.
So hopefully you're able to see that. Okay, were you able to hear it on your end? Christine, was it? Yeah, okay. So a couple of things that you can do to prevent this. So that's basically how they all play out. It's usually someone calls, they pretend they're your grandchild, they're in a crash, they've been arrested, for drunk driving, careless driving, and they need help right away. Couple of things. When you get these kind of phone calls, stay calm. If anyone is calling you, whether it's police or if your grandchild is calling you and allegedly in custody in a police station or in a jail or whatever the case is, yeah, there's no sense of urgency. There's nothing that you're going to have to rush to help them with. Take your time, ask some questions. Common when we speak to victims later on, sometimes what we find is a lot of victims will give out that name initially on the phone. They'll say, hi, and this example was, hi, Sarah, is that you? As opposed to not not giving any name, asking who's calling, ask a couple of questions. If you have some doubts, you can ask things like, oh, how's your new puppy doing? If you know they don't have a puppy, little things like that. Don't give the names out. Say, I'll call you back. Don't be afraid to say, okay, thanks very much. I'm going to call you back soon. And if they're saying they're calling from a police station or wherever it is, never trust the phone number they give you. Of what they'll do is they say, oh, I'm calling from the courthouse. Here's the courthouse number. You better call me back right away. Don't trust the phone number they give you. Don't trust what's on your caller ID. Look up a legitimate phone number and call that number back. And 9 times out of 10, you'll probably find that it's a scam, or 100 times, 100% it's going to be a scam. So be very careful with that one because it happens over and over again. It's becoming particularly concerning when we get into AI, which is the artificial intelligence, which can duplicate people's voices and everything else. It's going to be even more of a concern. So never trust the information that's on your phone or that they give you. Always contact, as it says here, contact a correctional facility. CRA scams, Canada Revenue scams. This is probably one of those scams that you can tell me as much about it as I can you. Everyone gets these. They're around and consistently every year. They're still out there, but sadly, consistently people become victim to this. It's generally you get an email or you get a text message on your phone saying, oh, you're entitled to X amount of dollars in your refund. Click here to deposit it. These are 2 scam emails. I'm not sure how clear it's coming up on your end, but hopefully it's coming up. And these are scams. You can see the one on the right looks fairly legitimate when you see what's on there. So what they want you to do here is they want you to click on those links. So if you get a text message with the link, here's your tax refund, click here. Or if you get the email and it says click here, that's what they want you to do. The best thing you can do when you get those emails is just delete them. As you probably know, Canada Revenue Agency sends out everything in a brown envelope. It's very official. Yes, you can get some information online, but that information online is something that you would have initiated. You would have signed up for the account online. It's not something that they're just giving everybody. So if you've always mailed in your tax returns, they're not all of a sudden going to set up an online account for you. So if you've never initiated it, never trust these emails. What they rely on is you entering the information. So I don't recommend doing this, but I did do it just to see what actually happens. So I clicked on the link and this is what happens. It pops up tax refund form and it asks you to enter your name and social insurance number. So you can see here, I don't know if you can see it clearly, but it says full name and I wrote in, I'm a cop. Social insurance number, I just put in the police station partial phone number just to see what happens. When I entered that, it said, oh, full name, I'm a cop, and you're getting a refund of $683. So this is just an example. The information I put in doesn't go anywhere. They just use it and then they flip it over to say you're getting refund. And then the next item is proceed for refund. So you click on that. And then what it asks you for is your name, your address, your city, your postal code, your phone number, date of birth. Now, you know as well as I do that Canada Revenue Agency generally knows sometimes more than we do about ourselves. So they're asking you for all that information. And the key is they want your credit card information here. So you can see at the bottom, they're asking you for your name, your card number, expiry date, and the code on the back. They're going to allegedly give you a refund here, or this is going to verify your identity. That's not how they work. They just want to basically steal your identity. So you've given them everything at this stage. If you've gone that far, you've given them every single thing that they need in order to take out a fake credit card a fake loan, and they can simply get it in all in your name and have it sent to their address and or PO box, and then they can go out. A lot of people don't realize they've been a victim of this until much later, when they, for example, they're writing a rent check, and the rent check, they get a call, say, hey, your check bounced, or they go to pay a bill and they're like, sorry, there's no money in your account, and the person's in shock. And then when they start looking into it, they realize that this person has been taking money out of their account the whole time, or they have completely racked up credit card bills and loans in their names. So if you get these emails, just delete. One clue, if you do happen to click on them in by mistake, you can see, for example, that's highlighted in yellow at the top here. This is not how a legitimate website will look. This is just some made up email address that they use, or sorry, web address that they use. You can see everything else looks legitimate, the government of Canada and so on, but at the top, that should be a clue that that doesn't look right. So it's the same with the text message. Text message, you click on the link. If you click on the link, it'll pop up on your right hand side here. Now, anyone that's ever actually sent a e-transfer on their phone, it's a legitimate way of sending money or receiving money. It's a great option. But if you click on that link, that's what will pop up on the right hand side. Highlighted in yellow, you can see there that that's, again, not a legitimate banking website, but the rest of it looks real. It gives you the option when you click on your individual bank, it pops up like Bank of Montreal, Royal Bank, you name it, and they look very genuine. So what it wants you to do there, again, is enter in your card number, enter in your PIN number, and then they're getting all this information. So if you're ever getting those, whatever it is, I can't stress enough just to delete it right away. Don't respond. Don't click on any links, just delete. Same thing sometimes with a phone call. You get a phone call saying you owe money. You better hurry up. You're going to be arrested. Police are coming, and so on and so on. First of all, police don't get involved in that. We don't do that. Canada Revenue Agency never use threatening language in the voicemails. They're not going to tell you you're going to be arrested, anything like that whatsoever. If you do get a call and for some reason you're on two minds, maybe it is legitimate. Like I said earlier, don't trust the phone number that you get. Don't trust the phone number that they give or on your caller ID, because that can be faked. That can be 100%. They can make that come as if it's Toronto Police, Canada Revenue Agency, Pizza, you name it. There's apps that people can do that. So just don't trust the phone number that they supply you with. So moving on from there onto social media. So social media, I'm sure if we were in person a few years ago, if I had have asked how many people were using social media, things like Facebook and so on, I'm sure there'd be a large majority of saying, no, I have no interest in that kind of stuff. Then with the pandemic, then a lot of us, most of us was either stay in touch with family through social media or online, doing what we're doing now, or you'd be fully isolated and you weren't even able to communicate with people. So there was a huge shift over to social media, particularly in the older age group. And it's fantastic because we're sitting here tonight doing this online, in the comfort of your own home or wherever, and the way I share information. And I'm sure throughout the pandemic, you guys were having various probably meetings and so on. So some people are like, older people can't manage technology because of cognitive deficits, which is not true. According to Google, Twitter, or I guess it's called X now, Facebook, they're seeing a huge shift, particularly in the older age group, because the pandemic kind of forced a lot of people on there, and they're enjoying it. It's a great way of keeping in touch with family and friends who are maybe not close, close proximity overseas or whatever. And it is a great tool. So they're seeing a big shift with older adults joining on these sites. Has a lot of benefits, socially, mentally, keeps a family together. It's great for certain interest groups. So you can go on to a meeting, or for example, we're on here tonight talking about frauds and scams. You can go on to some meetings for various organizations, talk about gardening or talking about cooking and presentations and so on, all online, where before you would have had to physically get there, physically get back. And it was just, you know, your 1 hour presentation became 3 hours. So there's a big advantage to it. So you can keep enjoying it. One thing, just be cautious. Be cautious who you're talking to. Be cautious who's out there and who's, you know, people pretending to be people that they're not. You got to be very careful of that out there. It's not that you have to be all paranoid, but you have to be careful of who you're talking to. When it comes to, again, with social media, with things like Facebook, which is probably the most common one for us that are older. I know my kids laugh and say, "Well, that's only for old people," but TikTok and those ones the younger generation are using. But with things like Facebook, it's good and it's bad, because it's good that you can go on there and you can join a group that could, for example, as you said, gardening or certain countries where your background is, and they'll have these groups that anyone can join. The thing is, anyone can join it. So people go out of the way, the scammers, to join these groups too, whether it's a church group or somewhere you would never suspect these people to be. They'll put on a fake picture and be involved in these groups, and they will chat and chat and chat, regular conversation for the longest time, just to build up a distrust factor. So be very careful. Another thing you'll see on here are these ads from time to time. It'll pop up. Congratulations, you won 2 free tickets, or if you share this with 5 of your friends, you're going to win a free cruise or free trip. It's never that easy. As you know, if you're not in, you can't win. No one is giving away money that easily. This particular example here, this was one that went out in the UK the year before last, and they said, "Hey, click here, share this with your friends, and you're going to get $1,000 gift card for IKEA." Well, on the Friday that it was launched, there was over 40,000 people clicked on it and shared it for this card that was non-existent. This was 100% fake, but you can see that they do an extremely good job on here. So if they got 40,000 people to share this page, you can be guaranteed even 10% only follow through on it. You're looking at 4,000 people, and that would have been the same idea: enter your credit card number and so on and so on. So be very careful. They pop up for everything. They pop up for McDonald's, Amazon, Shoppers Drug Mart, No Frills, you name it, they're up there. So if you see these, or it may not be you, maybe your friend, even my own friends from time to time will send them, and I'll say, "That's a scam. Just make sure you delete it." So at least you can tell your friends, "Hey, that's a scam." And if they doubt you, send them to the company's website, because most companies, if they go onto their website, they generally have an article saying, "This is the fraudulent activity that we're seeing." Computer virus scam. So again, a lot of these increased dramatically during the pandemic. Toronto police, unlike a lot of other police services, probably more so Toronto because of the bigger city, there was a decrease in street crime. So what we found as a police service was street crime, so things like robberies, residential break-and enters, assaults, things like that. There was a decline on that because, as you know, we were, isolating, we weren't going out, and people weren't going to work, kids weren't going to school, so there wasn't as many people out and about. However, on the flip side, we saw a huge increase in the online activities, the online frauds and scams. And as I mentioned years ago, some of you probably would have never dreamt that you'd be sitting here today on the computer doing this kind of thing. So the criminals took full advantage of that. Computer virus scams, there was an increase on that. The way they work is generally you're on your computer. For some reason, it's infected. It could be some website that you've visited, and you were able to install these bots or a virus in the background. And then all of a sudden, you get these pop-up windows on your screen saying, "Oh, warning, you have identity theft or suspicious activity. Call these phone numbers." And the idea is you call up those phone numbers, and they say, "Oh, yeah, we noticed there's a virus." So they generally want one of two things. They want, one is for you to give them your credit card information on the phone for them to get rid of the virus. Or second of all, they want you to let them access the computer from their end by telling you to click here, there, and so on. And then they'll have control of your computer. From there, they can either lock the computer up completely, and ask you for basically money before they'll free it. The problem with doing that is they'll ask initially for like $100, and you could be tempted to pay $100. Pay them $100, and then that's not enough. Now it's gone up to 500, and it just snowballs and snowballs, and there's no guarantee you get access to your computer. The other thing that they can do is they can go in and put all sorts of theft identity software in there that every time you enter information on your bank, they're getting it as well. So there's a lot of things. So never call these phone numbers. The best thing you can do is shut down the computer, restart it. If it's still there, take it to somewhere reputable, or speak to somewhere that a family member or friend that you trust, and tell them and let them take it somewhere or look at it and try to get these viruses off there. Never call these. If anyone's ever actually genuinely tried to get help, they never have their phone number this easily. These companies, they generally want you to email, or you'll find a phone number. You got to look and look and look. They never make it this easy. So that should be a red flag. So the next video I'll play is there's no picture with this one, but what it is it's an excerpt of an undercover investigator with the Federal Trade Commission in the US. So they got one of these and they were investigating and they wanted to see how it plays out. So the female voice that you'll hear will be the investigator, and the male voice is going to be the caller, or sorry, the person that receives it, allegedly trying to help this person when they call the phone number. So just to give you an idea how these play out. So that's just me being clumsy here.
Okay, so now what you need to do, madam, you need to scroll down the page very slowly, very carefully from your end, and you need to just scroll it down and tell me if you can see anything else other than the blue color information over there or not. And if you see anything else over there, let me know then and there, okay?
Okay, hold on, I'm doing that. Let me go through.
Be very careful, all right?
Let's see. Hold on. I see something that says warning and something that says error.
Jesus, did you see the warning?
Yeah, it says
Hello?
Yeah, it says
My
warning.
good Lord, madam, it would be my humble request to you, please do not try to click on any of them, okay?
Okay.
And it would be my request to you, madam, if you keep your mouse pointed away from them, because that's the malicious online infections I was speaking about, okay?
Okay.
And once you click on any of them, your computer might even stop responding at any point of time. So be very careful, okay?
Okay, I'm not touching the mouse. And what?
I tell you, as you have already, yes, I'm there. As you have already seen them, this means that your computer is also one of those computers which has been badly infected with those online infections, okay?
So let's see how that goes. So I don't know about you, but if I call that guy for help, he's in more of a panic than the lady was. So it's the same thing. So the same thing back. Don't call those phone numbers. That's what happens with those. So moving on to then the romance scams or dating scams. Sometimes they're, I don't know, these names can be a bit deceiving because a lot of people are like, oh, my dating days are over, or my romance days are over, and so on. But these sometimes develop without actually even looking for anything remotely like romance or dating. Sometimes they can originate in these, as I said, these Facebook groups where you're in there, you're in maybe a common group for church, or could be anything, some kind of hobby, cards, jigsaws, whatever it is. And these people will purposely join those groups with a fake profile, with fake information, and they'll build this relationship over time. They'll ask you questions. You know, do you have kids? Do you have grandkids? What do you like to do? Where do you live? And they will come up, they'll give you a fake story on their end. So basically you would get the over a period of time, and these people, these scammers will work for weeks, months, even longer in order to rope you in. And generally it comes down to that they're from the city originally. They're never here now, because if you ever ask to say, oh, it'd be nice to see you in person, Tim Hortons or for a coffee, they're never around. They're always away. but at some stage they plan on coming back, and I look forward to seeing you. When they build this anticipation up, generally what happens then is it gets to the day where you're supposed to meet them, and you get a phone call at the last minute, and there's an emergency. Something has happened. They're overseas. They lost their passport. Their visa it has expired. Something. A family member took sick. Whatever the case is, and oh, I can't make it. Sorry, I have to. I don't have any money. I'm gonna. Oh, and then the person wants to help. The person has built up such an anticipation of seeing this person. They want to offer to help, and they end up sending money. And then from there, it just takes on a whole life of its own. And some of these, sadly, into like hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not more, of people actually getting scammed into here, because the same thing. It starts off send 1,000, then it increases. Oh, I need 5,000, and people have actually taken out their life savings and lost money. Our fraud office is inundated with these things. So keep that in mind. If you are, for any reason, chatting with someone online, you should kind of have a better idea of who the person is. If you're on a profile and the person looks like, a lot of times we see it's the US, they're in the US Army or they're in the overseas army, and they'll have one or two pictures. They won't be all making sense, or they'll have only 6 friends, or there's nothing genuine about the pictures. There's no family members in the pictures. Things like that should be all red flags. The next example I'll give you is this one here. So this couple were married for like 44 years. The gentleman's wife, then she passed away sadly of cancer, and he was alone for a few years and figured, maybe it'd be nice to meet someone. So he goes on to this website, Match.com. Match.com is a legitimate website that people actually want to meet, and there's been, some great success stories, and a couple of friends actually I've met and married and still happily married. So there are genuine people on there. However, there are also the ones that purposely want to scam people as well. So anyway, he goes on there and meets this lady, a bit younger than him initially. She's from Toronto. She's away on business. I think she said she was in Australia on business, but she's coming back soon. And it was like, great, can't wait to see you. And like I said, it played out in such a way that this picture is 100% fake. The lady is real, but someone went online and just grabbed this image and made a fake profile of her, and sadly caught this gentleman with sending tons of money. So I have a video clip again. Hopefully that'll play okay. And it's heartbreaking because he lost his life savings. So let me play the video here.
Dale Hogg is talking to scammers who tricked his father into sending his life savings to Malaysia. After his wife died, Robert Hogg went on an online dating site. Within weeks, he met someone who claimed to live nearby, said she was out of the country on business. Sophia Goldstein was actually the face of scammers who convinced her target to wire money to Malaysia over and over.
October 12th, 50,000. October 24th, 50,000.
Hogg's family discovered the wire transfers after his father died of cancer in September. They added up to over $730,000.
It was a sick feeling for quite a few days.
That sickness turned to anger when he realized his father used his longtime bank branch to send 19 different wire transfers over 8 months, each time to a different person.
It's frustrating. I mean, there should have been red flags going all over the place at the bank.
TD declined an interview request. In a statement, a spokesperson said, "Our employees followed rigorous processes, including asking detailed questions at each transaction." The bank says their customer claimed he was building a house in Malaysia, says his story was consistent. The Canadian Bankers Association says banks must strike a balance between preventing fraud and protecting customers' rights to access their money. More people reported losing money in a romance scam than to any other fraud last year, almost $25 million, up from $17 million in 2016.
Banks want to be the keepers of our money. And as such, I think they have a moral and ethical obligation when you're dealing with seniors to make sure that they provide due diligence on the accounts.
Hogg is considering a lawsuit. Meantime, the scammers are unaware his father died. Their $3,000 request has now increased to $5,000.
Yeah, there you go.
He's stringing them along, hoping one day they can be found and prosecuted.
Boy, okay, so
talking about $700,000, a huge amount of money, and the banks are correct because they generally do a pretty good job at asking where the money is going, but at the same time, it's the person's money. There's a situation I'm dealing with at the moment where the person has changed his will to put this caregiver in who just decided to take care of him. She's not a qualified caregiver by any means, but she lives in the building and she has befriended this gentleman, and she's convinced him to put will for $1 million in her name. And it was the banks that made me aware of it. But sadly, it comes down to it's his money. If he's mentally capable, you can do whatever you want with your own money. So it is tough for the banks. I spoke to some people in the bank before, and they're like, we closed the person's account because we told them what was happening over and over and over again. And we just said, sorry, we have to close your account. Here's a check, because they knew exactly what was happening and they didn't want any part of it. So it's heartbreaking situations, and the money just keeps going up and up and up. So anyone asks you for money, cut off contact immediately. That's basically the bottom line there. And be careful who you're talking to on there too. So as I said, what can you do? So there's no need to be, you don't be paranoid. You're aware of these scams that we spoke about and similar ones to this. And it may not be you might be aware of them, but sometimes someone might adjourn, an innocent conversation, they might say, oh, I'm chatting with such and such a person online, they're friendly and this and that. And you start asking a little bit more and you're like, oh, that sounds like that scam that I heard about before. So you can just kind of maybe keep checking the conversation. If they start getting into, yeah, they're short of money, then you can maybe say, that's a scam. So you may not be a victim, but you may be able to stop someone else from becoming a victim. Good ways to stay in touch and see what's happening is the Canadian Anti-Fraud Centre. If you go online, you can look up the Canadian Anti-Fraud Centre. You can make a report there, and also they'll keep you up to date with the latest scams as well. The other website is the Canadian Bankers Association. They break down all the scams in a simple format as well. If you can't remember what they consist of, you can go on there and they'll give you the breakdown of them. Better Business Bureau Scam Tracker, that one is actually quite interesting. That will give you this common scams that are happening in your neighborhood. So you will go in and enter your postal code, and it will show you, it doesn't give the exact address, but it gives you a rough idea. So whether it's a roofing scam or whether it's a water heater scam or whatever, it's generally the ones that are outside, not so much the online stuff. So they're good ways of keeping yourself informed. Another good one is they used to print this, which was great when we used to get printed copies, but unfortunately they don't print them anymore. But if you search the Little Black Book of Scams, it's a publication that's put out by the Canadian government, and it's in multiple languages. So you go on there, and the same thing, it breaks the scams down, the common scams down, nice and simple. And it's something that can be shared with various organizations, or you can share with friends or family. You can just click on the link and send them the link, and that's really informative there. And then to keep in mind too, a lot of the scams we spoke about today are online. Sometimes it doesn't mean they're online, they can also happen in person. So people befriending people, just because you have something in common, and they're generally trying to find something in common. So it could be, religion, background, common interest, anything like that, and they build that friendship, and you develop this trust with the person, and all of a sudden then they're asking you for this big favor that you wouldn't generally do, but because you've built this relationship. And the scammers are good at building these fake relationships. It could be money, it could be asking you to store something, or take this person in who you don't necessarily want to live with you, and things like that. So you got to be very careful of these things, and don't be afraid to say no. So as I said, the numbers at the beginning, that was estimated at about probably only about 5% of the actual victims, those numbers, which were huge. So I think we said $283 million. and that's only a number from about 5% of the actual victims. Big reason we find later on when people say they didn't want to report it is they felt embarrassed. No one wants to be taken advantage of, and it can take a lot of guts to come forward and say, hey, here's what happened. But the sooner you do that, the better, because the sooner you can get help, can stop the scam occurring again and again, and stop you losing any more money. So it's important to reach out to somebody, whether it's police, whether it's someone you trust, anyone, just to reach out and say, hey, this is what's happening to me. From a police perspective, just to keep in mind, no one is going to say, oh, you should have known better. No one is going to make you feel bad. No one is, we fully understand this can happen to anyone. This doesn't have to be anyone that's older. This can be anyone, can be a victim. They're extremely good at doing what they do, sadly. So don't be ever embarrassed about coming forward and speaking to the police about these situations. There was a lady, Dolores Walker, she was 93, and she said she felt ashamed, even though she kept giving money and money and money, but she felt ashamed, and her regret was that she had wished she'd spoken to someone sooner about her troubles, because she was 93 years of age. She didn't need this extra stress, couldn't sleep, giving money just to get these people off the phone over and over, and like devastating. So it was like a sigh of relief when she told someone, because the weight was lifted off her shoulders, and it meant someone else was helping her and someone else was kind of looking into it. And same again, this professor from Portsmouth and the University of Portsmouth in the UK, and this was actually used on the flyer I saw, which was great. And it's saying that generational politeness could prevent older people from stopping engaging with fraudsters who might be deliberately targeting the elderly. So basically what they're saying is, pretty my generation, your own generation, a little bit more trusting, and we tend to be polite. What you'll find now with the younger generation is they're not as polite as we might have been. You know, if someone comes to your door, we have a tendency to apologize almost to them. Someone that's trying to sell something, say, sorry, I'm not interested. Or really, you didn't ask them to come to your door and knock on your door. But we have that natural thing about sorry, where nowadays people may not even answer the door. They might just slam the door in their face. It's the same when people call, we're almost listening to them to sell you something that you've no interest in. You didn't ask them to call you, but we're almost apologizing to them for hanging up. Oh, sorry, I'm not interested. Oh, maybe you can call another time. Where nowadays the young people just don't even answer or click right away. So the same thing. The scammers are good. They take advantage of the older people if they can. So keep in mind, you're walking down the street. If someone came up to you and said, hey, excuse me, I just want to speak to you. Can I have your name? Can I have your address? Can I have your phone number? Can I have your credit card information? There's a good chance you would say no. But for some reason, when it comes to people accessing our emails or accessing us on the phone, we have a tendency to let our guard down. Where if a total stranger came up to you on the street and asked for that, you probably would say no. So don't be afraid to say no on the phone, or don't be afraid to say no at a front door, if someone's going door to door, or don't even answer it. So just keep that in mind. So if you've been a victim, hopefully you won't be, but if you are, you can call the Canadian Anti-Fraud Centre, which is this number here. And also you can report it to police, which is recommended too. So if it's under $5,000, it can be the report can be made online on the computer. If it's over 5,000, you would just call and the police would send out an officer to take the report. Hopefully you never need it, but that's how our system is set up. So that's everything from my end. So hopefully the timing is still okay. If you have time for some questions, if need be.
Thank you, Mark. Yes, there a few questions have been coming in, and thank you for that amazing presentation. So there are some questions here on our screen. The first one comes from somebody who's remaining anonymous, and the question is, the call display on my phone sometimes says likely fraud, and I've seen some of that on my own cell phone. How reliable is that for screening for scammers?
It is actually pretty good. A few years ago, I forget who it is. I believe it's the CRTC. They came out with a because of all these calls and scams and so on, they actually told Bell and the big companies, Rogers, we need you guys to do something. And this was one of the things that they decided to do, was implement this, where the cell phone companies are saying it's likely fraud. So it is a step in the right direction for sure. So I would say it is pretty accurate. Yeah.
Oh, great. Thank you for that. So that's something not just for older adults. My son has seen those kinds of things on his phone as well.
Yeah.
Another question from an anonymous attendee saying, can you say a few words about repair scams? A friend lost $100,000 to a roofing scam. What do you do if a friendly repair person is at your door offering to take a look and do a cheap repair?
And that's probably one of the key words in there. And yeah, I know he has highlighted is friendly, because they do a great job at telling you, how building that relationship or building that friendship at the door. Remember that they're not your friends. That's the thing. Keep that in mind. Your friends are the ones that have your best interests, but these people will pretend they're all friendly at the door. So, number one, I would say, if you didn't wake up that morning saying, oh, I need to get my roof repaired, or I need to get my downspout repaired, or I need to get whatever it is, my windows repaired, or my water heater fixed. If you didn't wake up deciding you have to do that, then don't fall for someone at the door offering this all of a sudden out of the blue. That's number one. No, I'm not interested. Close the door. That's the best thing to do. Second of all, if you do need a genuine repair, reach out to a family friend, a neighbor who maybe has had work done. Look up the Better Business Bureau online, someone that you can trust, or look up some reputable company and call up a few reputable companies and get compare the prices. And you can look up all sorts of reviews nowadays on Google and so on. But certainly don't rely on someone at the door offering cheaper. Generally with these people is a time, and it's happened very, very recently again in Toronto when we had a good stretch of weather there a few months, probably last month, just before the winter. People were going door to door and they were asking for a deposit, and they never came back. These were people that never had a company. It's so easy to print a business card. They were going door to door and getting a deposit, and then that was the end of them. So there was a lot of people lost a lot of money. And in this case, sadly, this was like $100,000 for the person that joined us tonight. So make sure, if you can, tell them to report it if they haven't reported, because I know right now as we speak, Toronto Police are actively investigating the roofing scams, as well as some other police services. So if your friend hasn't, if you can have them make a quick report and tell them there's absolutely nothing to worry about, but it would be good to get this one in there as well, because it's quite possible that he's one of the victims of these people that are currently investigating.
So how important is it for people to report these types of activities? Because you mentioned police are doing an investigation. Is it important to get these things on the record so that police are aware where they're happening and how often?
Exactly, because if they're not reported, we don't know what happens. That's the thing. I know in my own neighborhood a while ago, we had someone just going through the cars, opening the doors. If the door wasn't locked, they were taking stuff out of the cars, rummaging through. And I was speaking to neighbors, said, you got to report it. And they're like, oh, it's okay, nothing was taken. And I'm like, doesn't matter if nothing was taken, you still report it, because then it pops up on the crime maps. Because every station has a crime analyst that will receive all the reports. And from there, they will see, oh, look at this. There's a scam, for example, taking place in this neighborhood. It's happened to 3 or 4 people. Okay, well, you know what? Let's get our major crime officers, or who are plainclothes officers, let's get them into that area. And they were, the reports were made between, say, 7 p.m. and 9 p.m. or 6 p.m. and 8 p.m. Send them into those areas in a plainclothes cars and have them patrol and look around and see if they can find someone meeting the description. So there's all sorts of stuff comes out of the reports. So sometimes people say, oh, police can't do anything. Well, it may not look like we're doing anything as far as arresting people, but there's a lot of background work that goes in. So if we don't know about it, it never happened. So I would strongly suggest people make the reports that we're aware of it.
And a related question has just come in here. And so this anonymous person is writing, my parents recently arrived from Ukraine and their English is limited. So if they wanted to call in and report an incident, are there translators, or how would that be handled if their English isn't the best?
Yeah, we have access to a language service. So when you call in, if you can just give the call taker an indication of what language you're speaking. If you can't, don't worry, they'll figure it out. And then they will connect you online pretty quickly with someone that speaks your language. And then they'll take the information. So they generally try, depending with Toronto, we're fortunate in Toronto with it being so diverse. If we can get someone an officer who speaks that language, they will reach out citywide to see if there is someone available that speaks whatever language is requested. And I want to say 9 times out of 10, but there's usually a pretty good chance if there is someone free, they will go to the address, or they will at least call them and communicate over the phone with the officers attending as well. So never hesitate, regardless of the language. We'll work around it.
Well, thank you for that.
No problem. The same will go for 911 too. So in an emergency, what we strongly suggest is not calling up a family member. So if I don't speak English, for me not to call a family member to tell them something urgent is happening and then wasting that valuable time. Call 911 yourself directly. And because that sometimes we hear as, my mom called me 5 minutes ago and told me this is happening. And it's like, okay, well, where's your mom live? And you have to backtrack. And there's a lot of valuable time, especially if it's something that's very serious. So if you can stress that to family and friends, call 911 if you're not sure.
Well, thank you for that. And here's a follow-up question to something you showed in your presentation. And this anonymous attendee is asking, how can I differentiate between an authentic and a false email address? You showed this on the screen, but I wasn't clear on how to differentiate. So is that something you can comment on, Mark?
Oh, yeah, on the website address?
Yes, so they're asking about web addresses, how to differentiate between an authentic one and a false one, a fake one.
When it comes to the government websites, they generally have a lock on the website. Like, it looks like an actual padlock on there. And it's usually a legitimate one, like something like CRAGC. So it's the one I have, actually, I'll see if I can bring it back up here. Just to show you. This one here, I believe. So I'll just share my screen here quickly for you. So you can see here, like, this is just a total made up one. So you can see it doesn't make any, it's not related anyway to Revenue Canada, where Revenue Canada one will say, I'm just going to pull it up here in the background. It's like Canada.ca is right away up there. See what I share here. Yeah, so it'll say like Canada.ca. So it's something that it closely matches the actual website itself. But this one here is nowhere even remotely close to it. So that should be kind of like a red flag. They'll vary, but they'll never be like the legitimate one. Like, it'll never be rbc.ca. It was the same when we looked at the banking one. It's centriccash.com.ar. So those ones where if it's a bank, it's going to say rbc.ca or td.ca or whatever the case is. So they should be just red flags. I wouldn't strictly rely on this, because who knows if they can actually fake that out of technology they have nowadays soon as well. But it is just something to keep in mind.
Well, thank you for that extra information, Mark. And here's another question that's come in, and it's saying, let me just read it here. Are there any tips that you can provide for seniors looking to rent out their basement to avoid scammers?
It's a good question. I would say almost be tempted to, well, first of all, background checks are important. So I think personally, if it was me, I think I'd be almost tempted to get someone who does it for a living to do it. You would pay them some money, obviously, to take care of it for you, but you have to be very careful. You get a tenant into your basement that you don't want or you don't like. Getting rid of them later on can be tough because they have a lot of rights as well. So I would say getting background checks, getting credit checks, things like that, they would be important. Sometimes it can be overwhelming. I know there's a gentleman in our office who has a basement that rents it out, but he said he doesn't do anything like that himself because he said it's just not worth it. So he pays a fee. I think it's whatever the fee is. He pays the agent 1 month of the rent, and that's her fee. But she does all the background checks and so on, and the contract is written up correctly as well, as opposed to your I maybe just doing a contract loosely. So that's what I would say. And you hate to say these days, but I'd be wary of sad stories. Oh, I don't have the first month's rent. I'm going to get a job and this, and you just doing someone a favor. Sometimes it's very hard to get the money and follow up later on with that. So I would say be cautious, and if you're not sure yourself, not comfortable doing it, get a professional who is.
Thank you for that. And there are still a few more questions, and we have a few more minutes, so I think we're okay to continue here a little bit more. So here's an anonymous attendee who's asking, I'm a senior and I'm new to Facebook, and I'm reluctant to post my picture as part of my account. Are there any scams around, any guidance that you can provide around posting pictures on social media?
What I'd say is, well, keep in mind any picture that you put on there. If you have, for example, your profile picture, if you put your profile picture on Facebook, anyone can go in and make, just right click and save it, and then they have to copy that image. And if it's a normal picture, there's no concerns really over that. I know a while ago I'm on Facebook for work account, and quite a few followers on there, and like post whatever information I think is relevant on there. And then shortly afterwards, I was getting these messages from people who were contacts on there, and they're saying, "Oh, I thought you were already my friend on Facebook, but I'm getting these friend requests." And it turned out someone had duplicated my account completely with me in my uniform, with my name, my title. The email address was different, but everything was it was a completely fake account that they had. So you can just imagine that someone who didn't have my real one, didn't know me, were following this person thinking it was me adding them, and it could do a lot of damage. It could be giving a sad story, like I said, and playing a victim, and maybe people would start sending money. So thankfully Facebook shut it down right away, which was good. But my own suggestion would be to have your account pretty secure. There's a lot of settings you can go on there that people can't. They can see your profile picture, but they can't access any photos within there if you control your settings. So I'd say, if you're not familiar with the settings on it, take a look in the privacy settings and have the account as private as you can, so only the friends that you actually know can see your photos. That's probably the best thing you can do. Or if you're not sure how to do it, get someone that is familiar to show you the settings on there. So that's what I would say. Keep your account like it's private, and friends only can access your information. And don't put things like you can maybe put your birthday, like May 4th or whatever it is, but don't put the year on there. Don't put a phone number on there. Don't put an email address on there either, because sometimes a lot of people put all that information. And be very careful of saying where you worked before and what you currently do, because the scammers can use that to their advantage and just go on there and say, "Oh, Eileen Smith. Oh, I see you used to work, Rogers. Oh, I used to work at Rogers. I think we used to work together," and open up a whole can of worms. So be very, very careful with that information. But there are settings. So I'll agree that Facebook is not the easiest thing to do, to play around with the privacy settings. It takes me quite a while sometimes to find out what I need to do on there. But there are settings that you can make it for friends only, and that's what I'd strongly suggest.
Great, Mark. Thank you very much. So we've had quite a few questions come in, and you're hearing the type of things people are asking about. We'd like to thank you, and I'd like to thank you on behalf of the IFH community for spending time with us today and giving us this valuable information. Because as I said in the introduction, Knowledge is power, and with this new knowledge, we can help not just ourselves, but people in our community, people in our family that we know. So thank you, Mark, for this evening, but also thank you for doing what you do. Thank you for choosing to do this line of work, because you are doing so much good for so many people, and including our IFH community this evening. So please accept the thanks of the community from me, and we wish you much success and much luck in making sure that we keep a lid on all of the scammers, find them all, and try to do the best we can to protect people. So thank you, Mark.
You're very welcome. I'm happy to come back any other time too. If you find there's a trend or there's an interest, you know how to reach me. So I'm more than happy to share the news.
Well, thank you very much, and have a lovely evening.
You too. Take care, everyone. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Bye now.
Bye, everyone. Thank you very much for joining us.